Hello and welcome to the grand finals of the Universus Bake Off. I am very excited to do this. I am here with the three finalists of the previous rounds. We have Kai, Reese, and Richard, who won their previous rounds and have been very excited to get this one done. But let's start off with Kai. How are you doing?
Tired.
Reese, you won while Kai was judging. So how are you feeling about going up against the judge?
I mean, if it takes Kai just to judge for me to win, I guess I got a free win again.
And then we have Richard, who made it through the first round with an illegal deck. So this is going to be
It's just easy mode, man. Like, you put me up against a couple of kids.
As this is the finals, I thought I'd go a little bit more all out and get you some judges that are going to push you beyond your limits, are going to make you build and bake some of the best decks out there. So I thought I'd get in a UVS employee and face of the company to the community, Guile Lenoco. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. I'm doing all right. I just lost the Settlers of Catan tournament earlier today, and I'm ready to judge things. So if they're in for a challenge, it's going to be a tough one.
And known for some unusual homebrews, very good decks that are kind of on the fringes of the meta, and part of their international player rehabilitation, we have Justin Birch. For those who have not watched the previous episodes, the judges are going to give them a card or a concept to build around, and then they're going to have 30 minutes to go away, build their decks. We're going to also go and jump in on them whilst they're building their decks to ask some questions a la Bake Off, find out what's going on with their builds, and just have a good old time while we try and figure out what is going on here. I picked these judges that are usually I don't know what they're doing beforehand, but because it's live, I need to know what they're doing beforehand, and we've got some very interesting ways to build. But let's quickly talk about what's on the line here. So the players are already aware of this, and people have said I'm crazy for giving this away for this contest. The winner of today's contest gets an orange and grey Universus deck box from the 2022 Worlds. Has anyone got anything they would like to say, pitch, or go anything, or should we just crack straight into it?
Yeah, I mean, the deck box is one thing. The main thing on the line here is bragging rights and pride, really, isn't
Exactly. And a big shout out to the Atlantic Ocean for delaying our pre-release pack so we could actually do this weekend.
Yeah, you made half the people in the UK depressed.
Yeah. If we've got nothing else to talk about, I'll hand over to round one judge, who will be Justin Birch, and will give you what you're going to be building around.
Bakers, everyone knows it is easy, it is effective to cook with a really good ingredient. You know, if you have A5 Wagyu, you're going to cook a good steak, as long as you are somewhat competent. But I think the real skill of any true baker, of any true chef, is the ability to cook something delicious with the worst possible ingredient. And when I look through the list of tools you guys would have access to, I think none encapsulates making the best out of the worst than Rikia. That is right. Today you need to make the most competitive deck using Rikia Katsukame. The goal is it needs to be the most competitive deck possible while still taking clear advantage of the unique flavors that Rikia brings you. That means you need to be taking advantage of his life gain abilities and his once per turn enhance. You can't just make the best good stuff five-hander on these symbols and think it's going to be enough to make it to the next round.
So we're looking for a Rikia Katsukame, the most competitive build out there, utilizing their abilities to the best of your abilities. If there's nothing else, then I'll let you guys head off to your tables and I'll start the 30-minute timer. Let's start off with my usual question at this aspect. What cards are you looking for? What is it you're looking for in this build from the bakers?
So I think there's a few directions you can immediately go with Rikia that would be effective. My first thought here is that you really, if you're trying to make his ability work, you want to be revealing as many cards as humanly possible with his once per turn enhance. And to do that, the biggest issue is there's only a 27 health character. You're at real risk of someone just not poking you till the end of the game and just playing defense, at which point you're not going to be able to have that much lost life to gain life. So I think cards like Paying the Cost on Evil, where you lose a life to get a damage, which then like you do that and you lose the life off yourself. If you poke, you're back up to full, could immediately do a lot for what he wants his game plan to be and get some of that aggro push. And then additionally, you're going to want to combine that with some life gain cards, brief respite, whatever's the 3 diff that I'm blanking on, that is +1 or -1 whenever you heal, to really start getting some payoff for the amount you're gaining all of that life. What Guile would be looking for here.
That's what I was just going to ask. You've had less time to think about this, Guile, so what would you be looking to put into this deck?
My absolute first instinct is to go on life with a lot of the AOT Ymir build cards. I can see, while obviously life is just going to be one of the symbols that's going to be shared with a Ymir that the other one doesn't have, a lot of the life cards that were in that kit and are in the most competitive decks right now for that character are going to be something that's going to also gravitate towards the gameplay. There's a big difference, though, because a 7-hander is going to see a lot more of them compared to a 5-hander, and I think that's going to be the actual challenge.
I also think this is a great example of where being attuned is going to come in a lot of handy here, because you're mentioning all of those Ymir cards. Those are all on life attuned. They can go off any of these 3 symbols and still get access to every AOT life gain card that they have.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think if it was me building this one, off the rip, without looking through the entire list, I feel like I'm probably main symboling Earth, and then pulling in a lot of the attuned life. There's a couple of evil cards that I think definitely fit the bill here, but I don't think there's anything really that evil is bringing to the table right now that both Earth and life are giving. So I think if I see somebody building on evil, or including a lot more of the evil package from TMNT, I'd be really impressed with that build, honestly. But I think we're going to be looking here at Earth and life are going to be mostly what we're staring down right now.
I think if anyone's bringing evil to the table, it is purely because of the value of the Hiei 2 cards. Sword of Darkness Flame also fits what this deck's doing exceptionally well.
Same with Runaway. I think Runaway is also a very good ad for people. But I'm just not convinced there's enough juice there right now.
Sure.
And I'm hoping I'm wrong. I want them to prove me wrong. But off the riff, I'm slamming Earth cards and every life attune that says gain a health or lose a health somewhere along the line, and or draws a card. That's going to be my really big. That's a big downfall of this character. I think this character just needs a lot more draw.
Hey, well, let's just remember, though, we have seen a world's level player go 2-2-2 at a regional with Rikia. Shout out to my podcast co-host, Tim Keefe, who brought it, I believe, during Undaunted raid format to a regional.
Is there anything, Justin, that you're wanting the builders to avoid? Is there any ingredients the bakers could put in that would immediately sour the taste?
I would be pretty disappointed if they just go life symbol and call it a day. I think one of the value attuned brings is being able to take these symbol identity ideas and bring them over to other symbols. And the life symbol is a life gain symbol, but you get a ton of that through just attuned, and that allows you to then use the flexibility of what other symbol identities like evil and earth are bringing to the table. I think they make a much more well-rounded flavor of deck.
Funny enough, I think the new schemes, if we're gonna see any of the evil splashes as well, I think the schemes are gonna be something that's gonna really pop into this deck. And I don't know yet if it's gonna add to the flavor or take away from the flavor. I want to see which ones they pick and pull. Those schemes can do wonders. I mean, being able to commit a foundation on every attack that you play during the turn, even as a 5-hander, that's probably 3 attacks, considering that you're gonna reveal the top X and get to play 1. So that's stun 3 off the rip before any other keywords, any other abilities on the attacks fire through. That might be the one that I think has the best shot. I'm hopeful, but also doubtful at the same time.
I will accept if they go life symbol for exactly 1 card. If they go a backup deck with Harness Undeath, I am interested to see what they do with that, because that's one of the most interesting, unique life things they get access to that does some gain life stuff.
We've had a chat. We know what we're looking for. We know what we're not looking for. Pick a table to go see what's going on first.
Let's go take a look at Richard over in table 3 right now.
Hello. Yeah, so I'm just looking at attacks for now. I had a vague idea of some sort of Falling Titans thing. I'm putting that on the back burner for now, just because he's someone that can sort of find the combo to an extent, but I'm not sure. So I'm thinking more things like, so Mr. Despair, he gets the turn on face and gets to go find it. Gets to play things like Anima Shot, so it's sort of ripped a card away. They sort of have to block it, or else he's gaining his health, and therefore getting the health gain stuff. And yielding's just a good one, right? And then probably some amount of throws just to be able to turn this stuff on. Maybe some jaw titans. So yeah, just looking at our attack lineup, I'm thinking like evil is probably my build at the moment. So yeah, just trying to get my attack lineup first. Could that be just there? And then probably when it comes to foundations and things, it's like trying to make the use of his reveal, right? So trying to get some amount of bing bongs, but I don't know how many really exist on these symbols. So we'll have to see. But I think this is probably somewhere in the list of where I'm at. We've probably done before those. So yeah, just looking at the stuff that is obviously triggering off his health gain, assuming we can turn it on, which is the tricky part, right? So either we need to find speed or we work with throws. So,
Sure.
I mean, I think we just want 4 Anima Shots because basically every deck wants 4 of these things.
That card is pretty good. Not gonna lie, that card's pretty solid.
Yeah.
So, any comments
you
or
think
questions? I was about to say, but you already jumping in. Go ahead, Justin.
Do you think your deck is going to struggle to find cards to play, given that you're a 5-hander to begin with? I don't know what the evil symbol really has to draw off of.
Well, in theory, you're making yourself a 6-hander, right? So it's trying to find the ways to make yourself into the 6-hander.
Sure.
So things like Touch of Terror, right? Is this sort of drawing you extra cards? Your face is giving you effectively extra cards. So like that's where I'm at. I mean, obviously he's not a good character, right? That's why we don't play him. And so things like Double Fists, right? Is you can lose the 2 health, effectively regain it.
Sure.
So you're 2 attacks in once. That was what I was thinking of. So yeah.
Makes sense.
I'm noticing
is
you
it-
said you're going on evil,
Yeah.
but one of evil's cool things is spending your own health as a cost. And I'm not seeing a ton of ways to get your own health down to be able to then heal with your enhance. Is that something you're going to try and find through your foundation?
Yeah, so we've got
Or-
foundations that do it, right? Like we've got some Double Fists in here.
I think it was just
yeah.
Double Fist that I saw off the rip that you had currently.
Yeah, so I was thinking about the rest of the guy Hiei from Thingamajigs. So
Yeah.
maybe some of his stuff. And like, we're a 5-hander, 27 health. We're gonna lose some health anyway. So yeah, that's where I'm currently at. But yeah, possibly some of the Hiei stuff I was considering.
That makes a lot of sense. We'll let you get back to the build, unless you've got any final thoughts from the judges. Yeah, we'll
I
head
think
over.
the base is looking. Yeah, I think the base is looking very good right now, and I'm really excited to see what happens when you finish with the bake.
Yeah, we'll head over and see Kai, but best of luck, Richard.
Very much.
I was keeping all the judges in the dark.
Thank you.
So I've got Recair on live. I decided to do it so I can run a similar list to Ymir, and run Dual Needle Lunge, Rejuve, and mostly Midst of Despair, just so we can have his once per turn not count towards progressive. So go midst once per turn, and if it deals damage, my card that I'm playing next from the removed pile will not count, which is his most weakness, is that after a long string, he'll be having to play it on high difficulty. So I decided to add a Midst of Despair. And I think I've got the attack lineup finished. I have readied shot to pick up Dark Tournament Looms so I can keep looping my Dual Needle Lunges. and channel energy is moved from TMNT, and it's just a massive dunk to finish with at the end of a turn when all shields are down on rival side. On Yankapon, just keeps me be able to play more attacks on the lower difficulty, which I can build in with Hunter's Ally. And the Hunter's Ally can also build in Urumeshis. The main damage output will be recuperation time, and I'm just going from that.
That makes a lot of sense. Looks like you put a lot of hard thought and work into this deck immediately. Any thoughts from judges?
Yeah. Did you take any time to try to consider maybe other symbols like evil or earth, and maybe?
Yeah.
So what made you
I
lean
was.
towards life?
Yeah, sorry.
I just want to know what made you lean towards life over the other symbols.
Because life has been the more competitive symbol throughout. Throughout the meta recently, and he gets more he gets more cards that he can utilize the life game on life, which is his strongest symbol in my opinion. I considered evil for a bit though, just because of the amount of support he gets from Overhaul's kit. All the other people in GA Psycho.
Yes, how do you feel about your attack lineup currently being so heavy on 5 diffs when you're talking about wanting to string things out? Or because you only have 4 Myths of Despairs in there, so you're only going to be able to cheat progressive 4 times throughout the entirety of a game, more or less. It just seems like it's souring your bake a little bit.
Yeah, I'm working to fix on that, but the thing that keeps it going more is with Dual Needle Lunge clears itself. Hunter's Ally, I can build in Urumeshis, which can pick up Midst of Despair, Spiral Wave Surge, which helps to add to my checks, on Yankapon, which can stop one card from carrying to progressive. But the attack lineup isn't final. I'm just trying to get a baseline.
I'm just going to say, I do really enjoy the TMNT splash you have up top there in your attack lineup. I think that one of Earth's best cards they're getting for channel energy, and like,
Yeah.
As a one of, I think it's the right call. Just like a little dash, just a hint of flavor in there. But again, that with it being such heavy on the 5 diff lineup, I'm interested to see if it's going to stay there the entire time.
Right, well, best of luck, Kai. We'll head over and see how Reese is doing. You've got just over 12 and a half minutes left.
All right, let's see what we got here.
So we got Bonkman Jones over here. I actually played Rikita back in set 5 era because I thought he was really cool. And then I realized he's really bad.
So are we planning on
being
staying
cool.
at 250 cards?
Being cool and being bad are not necessarily exclusive. All three of them we've seen, they've been pretty good decks so far. So, like, I don't think he's bad off the rip.
Rikita had the issue of, like, his effect was, like, really cool. Until people realized the fact he didn't say it ignores progressive. That was the issue, really.
Yeah, let's be clear. That was Guile, face of the company, trying to say he's not bad. As a player, I could say this character's awful.
He's a lot of fun in Sealed.
He's a fun sealed.
He is a very fun sealed.
Not all characters are meant to be competitive in standard. Some are meant to be fun in Sealed as well. We do have pre-releases. So you're building on the Earth symbol?
Yeah, of course I am. It's best symbol.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
At least, like, I will always say it's best symbol because, well, that's my roots. I originally played it on Life way back in set 5, but I honestly think, like, with all the stuff that's came out on all 3 symbols now, I still think Earth's pretty good. You get stuff like just Titanic Combat because, like, being a 5-hander, you, like, really need to build. This is just like the new male bonding, but instead of flipping itself, it just keeps committing. So since you're doing up and down on your life gain and loss, you in theory can just keep using the same Titanic Combat because you might be losing, say, like 8 life a turn, but at base you're gaining back 2. And then obviously you've got the rest of your card effects because you want to be playing at max or as close to. So you just play stuff that kind of facilitates it. Like it's the same logic with when people playing Historia for like that kind of life gain stuff with the recuperation time of like, cool, I'll brief respite to gain life, and then I'll gain damage off of this, or I'll lose damage from your attacks. It's a very much it's a roller coaster kind of deck.
What are you getting really out of the 8 diff that I see in your
Oh,
build?
nothing. That was something.
Oh, okay. Cool.
That was one of those. Let me think if I can use it or not, and then realize actually I just can't.
I do think Earthbreaker is a really interesting choice here. Given your 5-hander, you know you're going to be at lower foundations, and you're going to be beef refs bidding to gain health. Getting a card drop that definitely does not sound bad.
Yeah, it's like the same point, like kind of like stuff like Get the Horns. Like it's nice, but it requires you to take damage, and then it's like only a 3 low. So that way, I'd rather be playing like any good 4 diff.
Sure.
And you can play stuff like Battle Web Bandage, since you're guaranteed to gain a health in some manner of way. This will like always just become a 3 for 4. Like it's not very well stacked, but it's a 2 diff attack. That's a 1 low block, and it's just a chip.
Makes sense.
It's like stuff like Battle Web Bandage. I love like the cheap costed attacks because they can go from having a dead hand with like 1 attack from just get the ball rolling, just because like stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. We'll leave you to the rest of your build. You've got 7.5 minutes left. Best luck, Reese. How are we feeling about these initial builds?
I'm glad to see them all on a different symbol for sure. I think the person that I thought was striking the best balance of the two from initial looks was, I believe, Richard, who was on Evil. I think he's got like a good thought of here's some good stuff cards, but we're also doing a lot of life costing and life gaining. I'm a little worried that Kai's build is a little too good stuff, like just being Ymir on a worse character and not really taking advantage of the unique stuff that Rikia gets going for him. And then Reese, I don't think has like as clear of a vision yet on what he wants his deck to be as the other two seem to have.
Took the words right out of my mouth on it. I definitely think Richard has a vision and a clear like path to victory that he's found and wants to take down all the way through. I think that Kai is just doing a worse impression of Ymir, which is kind of what I said at the beginning, where I was a little like kind of on the shaky side of them going for. Just I don't want to say it's the easy way out, but because the deck's still good. Obviously, the deck's been highly competitive all the way through, but at the same time, it's not taking advantage of what makes this character cool. It's not showing off the great aspects that this character can do, and also being able to go through and use the remove from game pile, the discard pile, and the play this card from not your hand.
One thing that none of the players are really taking advantage of is that this ability on defense basically says -1 damage. And so being able to use the more DR side of that ability by like losing 1 health, jurying it, and then gaining 2 health back, so it's like you only took 2 or 3 damage, I think has a lot of potential. I'm just not really seeing that from any of the builds currently. There's one other trap I think Kai is falling for when I look at their deck list though. Ricky is a 5-hander. He's going to see less foundations in hand. And I saw him playing 3 different 0 diffs. Again, kind of did that whole impression of Ymir thing. Ymir's a 7-hander who needs to build quickly. So getting 0 diffs is like a big deal. If you're a 5-hander, so you're not seeing 3 foundations, or you're only seeing 3 foundations usually anyways, you don't really have near as much of a need for 0 diffs. You can play really good 3 2s and 1s as the majority of your foundations. I just hope that like people realize that since they're playing less, they're building less foundations, they should be going higher difficulty in their foundations. I'll be curious to see if any of them really get that idea by the end.
I did like that Richard.
Go ahead.
I did like that Richard was looking at the Jaw Titan attacks as well, which is just a nice life gain on face, and then a counterplay of you don't get to gain life though.
Absolutely. I do think pretty much any deck that is doing a lot of life gain related stuff should at least be considering Jaw Titan for respective mirrors. My run at Worlds is ended in top 8. Not that I wouldn't have lost the game without it, but it went from like, I had a possibility of being Broberg to Jaw Titan being on the board when I'm Ymir just meant I could never play the game.
It's a very good card, especially for its stats. I mean, even without the 4-check, the 6/6/6 that says I gain 2 health, and you don't get to gain health in your next turn. Perfect.
But I think one of the cool things with characters that don't have stat gain on their face, like direct stat gain, Massive Mutant Machine from TMNT is a real it just allows you to end games quickly, allows you to put things through. And I'm surprised that that's not even like a one of in these decks, even though it's a 7 diff. You don't want to see it really early. It's got 3 deflect, which definitely helps you when you're trying to lose health on your face. It allows it to be a +5/+5 if you get it built down. I'm not saying that the card it needs to go in every single deck, but in a 5-hander that really wants the game to go long, that way allows the health gain to start going up back and forth. I think it's a really good like 1 or 2 of to have it in there cheeky just to be. I have a way to end this game. You have to now interact with me. You have to start throwing some chips.
If any of the symbols were ones that could cheat it in, I might be on board. You know, if it was a 6 check, so Titancliff could build it in or whatever, or if we were on like a symbol with dramatic slash, maybe. I think like you are going to invest so much trying to play that card at normal progressive, even if it's the first thing you play, that you're putting yourself down for a huge backswing against you if you ever try to get it in stage.
Yeah, I don't disagree that it is definitely a more riskier play on that regard, but it's also one of those that, like, even if you're just using it for the deflect, like, it has a space in your hand that if you see it early, it has use. If you see it late, it allows you to end out a game. Because, like you said, you're not going to be building that many foundations as a finder. You're
and I
going to
think
lose
what
the
is
foundation.
I think what is definitely true here in that regard, I think where all the players are kind of struggling a little bit is figuring out how are they going to connect with attacks.
Well, let's
Because if
find
Ricky
out,
had-
because that is time on the round. Bring everyone in. Hello, Reese. Hello, Kai. Hello, Richard. Have you used your time wisely? Because that 30 minutes is now gone.
Yeah, no, I think I'm good. I don't love it, but I think I'm good.
How about you, Kai? How are you feeling?
Oh, good.
And Reese?
Yeah, man.
Let's see who has used their ingredients the best, who has followed the recipe that Justin put out, and who is going to satisfy his taste. Who would you like to go start off with, Justin?
Let's go ahead and start off with Reese, because he was the one that had definitely the most cards he was trying to figure out when we were looking at his table.
All right, so Reese, tell us about your deck.
So we got Bonk Man. Ricky's really cool. He's just big and muscly. Like, he's really big. Like, he really... Man, he's so cool. Like, why do we have to do him dirty? Like, what's this? 5/27? Get out of here. Ricky's cool. Yeah. Let's ignore the deck size. I think 75 is fine on a 5-hander that likes to cycle through the deck as quick as it can, in theory, do. So we'll start off. It's on Earth. Earth's a really cool symbol. I think life is nice.
I'm so shocked you went for Earth, Reese. So very shocked.
Who would
I
have
think
thought?
Earth is the correct symbol to play the up and down roller coaster on the life loss and the life gain. If you wanted to play life, I think that's very much sitting at like the max health kind of bar, and that's how you should play that if you want to play it that way. Evil stinks. Evil's not good for him. It's bad.
Interesting.
Evil's like really cool because you get like the whole Choice stuff, but that's about it.
Sure.
But yeah,
Okay.
so Earth cards. Dark Torment Looms, it's just a standard card. Your attacks are probably most likely definitely hitting. So let's get him back to momentum. Let's draw a card. He's a 5-hander, he needs to draw cards. Same thing with Juries. Like if you're playing against like any Titan deck, they're just gonna like make big attacks. Let's just put that to 4. Let's get that under control. Let's draw a card again. Yeah, the jury response can just come up and it can take numbers away off them, like just committing random stuff, which is nice. 4 check is a bit of a stinker, so yeah, but that's just the necessary evil, I'd say. Soup is really cute. It's a build. Like, it's a 1 mid, so it's an easy block, so you don't even have to like play it to build it. But the fact it gives the damage and the health, the on-demand gain health is really important if you've just, say, taken like 15 life, and you just want to heal it back. Constantly, the more life you heal, the more cards you're going to flip over to then try find the right attack you want. The attack lineup we've got Battle Advantage. Is a really nice statted card. It's a 2 diff, so it's really easy to play. If you've been forced to play Foundations halfway through your attack chain, you can just play this after that, and it shouldn't be affected that much. It's a nice 1 low block to get those pesky low attacks that people really dislike get them blocked easily. It's a 1 for 2, so it's a chip attack. And then since you're always gaining health, should always be a 3 for 4, which is just a nice chip. But again, playing 4 of it, it's 3 is you want to see it sometimes, not all the time number. Whereas seeing 4 you'd maybe see that a bit too commonly when you've like at the start of the attack chain, which doesn't usually help. Outman defensive, it's just a nice 2 of. Depending on how quick the game's going, the blitz should fire. Like if they're psychoed to gain the 4 health and like doesn't count auto rock, which will help to try doing attack string, which 5-handers don't typically do that well. But because it doesn't count auto prog, it's really great to counteract Rikia's non-existent clause of not counting towards progressive to play the card. So we try and balance that one out. And then the response on hit, just add any foundation back to hand. We don't play any backups, but there's some very good foundations we want here. But like a lot of the deflect and the draw and the damage neg. After that, we've got some Tendy. Tendy cards are really cool. We love to gain life. We know Guile is a big Tendy fan.
That's true.
Yeah. 1 high block is really nice. The 4 diff should pass. 3 mid for 5 is a fair statly. Powerful 2, it's nice, especially if our attacks are hitting. Let's just make them big. Let's try and make them hit. Again, the blitzes give it the 1/1 if you've gained health, which you should have gained health. Same logic of being 3 as a battle band if you don't want to see it as your start of your opener, because there's no form heal. Serving Shade is awesome. It's a life card in an Earth deck that says EX. Earth has very little speed bonus, so this is phenomenal. This card's also super cool because like after you lose health, gain it back, and it gains a damage. Awesome. Ricky has loser health to gain 2 if it hits. That's fine. That is enhance, pay no cost if it hits, gain 2, and give us attack damage. That is awesome. That card's crazy. Mid to spare, again, it's just a nice one. Same logic of like if you gain health this turn, which will be happening after the first attack, so you'd never want to start on this. Just to give it 3 speed, make it a 5/5/6. It's just a cheeky little hammer. And then if it does hit, if you've used Rikia, you'll be gaining 2 health, and the next card doesn't count towards progressive. Again, plays into Rikia's secondary enhance to play off the top of deck, which is awesome. Electric Moth, it's just a Earth card that says draw 2 cards. Is just nice. Giant enhance. Why doesn't it say giant? He's a giant. Earthbreaker, it's a 5-hander. You're most likely than not having less foundations than your opponent, so it helps to draw. Obviously, for the regular draw power that's already in the deck, you'll start gaining the damage whilst it's in card pool. And stun 2 is really nice. It's also a low attack, and it's 1 high block just in case, because why not? Vital Impact, it's a Rikia deck. You kind of have to play the Rikia cards from his own package. Vital Impact by no means is a good card, but in the context of Rikia's effects and enhances, it is incredibly fine. Being able to use Vital Impact just to go back to match, and then give it 2 speed if you started on it, is fine. It giving itself power 3 if you imagine playing it off the top of the deck is fine. But it is a 1 high block. That's pretty nice. Foundations, pretty standard stuff. Tough Skin, it's a 0 diff foundation, which is very important in a 5-hander. Minus the damage, yeah. We'll try and do some DR, so we don't have to gain too much life back. Number 10, it's a 6 check, it's a 1 high block, it's a 0 diff. Desperate Plea, as much as you are just doing a lot of damage neg stuff, you would also probably be blocking things, and it does help just to regain foundations. Yeah, Pillowfad Provisions is fine. This shouldn't have made the final cut, but it can just come up with Fiasm to just, if you haven't got any momentum, you can flip the Fiasm, draw one, and then discard the Pillowfad to then gain a health, and then look at the top card of your deck to see what you're going to play for the next form, which is pretty nice. It also comes up with the Electric Moth just to use it as a free discard for a health gainer. It's fine. Too high value. I think Zinzilla. I don't know what's going on, but Zillas seem to like kind of drop off as much, and I've not seen much foundation blow-ups. So I think going back to playing like 2 and 2 high values is like perfectly safe to do so, whereas like during Zilla format it was very much just main 4. Energy Suction again is just a nice card for the Rikia package. It is its own foundation. Just keep gaining health whilst in card pool if you're hitting. 2 low blocks, also very handy. Yeah, we're obviously fit for us as attacker, and if he has some to draw cards. Slubbertron's nice. It's a 2-diff, which is a bit of a stinker, but it has deflect too. And it cycles itself because you can build it in, put it to card pool to either damage buff or damage neg, and then if you've damage buffed on your turn, you get to add it back ready for the deflect on their turn, which is pretty cool. Titanic Combat is a 5-hander. This is the new male bonding. You just need to keep building cards because you don't get that many cards in hand. Also, it's enhanced to stun them out, but one more is really awesome to pair with the Earthbreaker. And if you're going to have the big attacks, you may as well try and actually have them hit. So Titanic committing 1 just come up. Weapon Clash Swell, the damage neg's nice, but also you can just choose to build 1 out. Cooperation used to be like my favourite about Earth 2-diff, just for the -3 speed. But it's very much you're potentially just not blocking that much, and you're mainly DRing, so you don't need the 3 speed. Also, commit for 2 damage will only be applicable for when you play it off the top of the deck, if you do playing attack, so it's not guaranteed, but it's just a nice situated card. Big Appetite is a mandatory 4. It's an Earth card that says draw card, and you won't be discarding unless you're playing against the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, who are a 4-hander. Like, that's fine, I guess. It just says flip draw card. It's a 2-low block. That's awesome. Weather Blades, Radan is probably real again this set. There's a lot of things it's been given, like, and just Earth can't deal with speed neg. It can deal a little bit of damage neg, but this just kind of bumping it back up by 2 is awesome. And then recuperation time. It's pretty much just simple. You've got like the on-demand heal stuff kicking about, so you can just choose to gain or take off damage when needed. Yeah, we made a little sideboard. This is cute. But yeah, this is Shadow. Cool guy. Big buff bird.
I just want to see if I missed or not. Did you have any best buddies or brief respites in this deck?
There were, and then they got cut because it's a 5-hander and you don't build out that much. There's also like not much to pair with it, like what you'd actually want to be sacking off of them.
So I'm going to ask this question to everyone at some point through here. How would you describe this deck?
It is Earth. Earth is the best symbol. Life is too stinky, and any other life character does it better. So why would you try to build a life character as is?
Because Justin told you to.
Let's hit damage and let's kill them. Boff.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be the rude judge here for a little bit. I know it's shocking given my character, but I think I'm missing the competitive half of this attempt to make this deck competitive. I think there's a lot of like you're going in a lot of different directions here without really a consistent through line. Like you want to be doing DR, but you're running 0 toughest punk of junior high. Instead, you're running the one that adds to card pool for -2 damage, which I would argue is quite a bit worse than just toughest punk. You put 4 Desperate Plea in the deck. You have 3 cards total that do speed hate. Maybe you can say 5 if you count the 2 high value targets. In your 5-hander, that's already going to be struggling to have foundations to block with. So I'm not exactly sure how we're going to be paying those Desperate Pleas off, especially when the slot could have been filled with like a brief respite or a best buddies, where like you can start gaining health, and then using those gain health, you can take advantage of the recoup times because, you know, with Rikia, you have 3 recoup times, but Rikia misses the timing for recoup. Your health gains after the damage is already dealt. So you're not using the DR there. I think our only really life gain defense that I see right now is like soup. I might be missing it. And that's like, okay, but we're kind of missing half of what recoup time is bringing to the table at that point. Why aren't we playing the life gain cards that allow us to convert that into more DR? That seems like it's a real miss to me. And I also think some of the attacks like Battle While Bandaged feel like, oh, we're playing a long string deck as a 5-hander. And I just don't see that realistically happening consistently enough for me. So like I think you've got the theme part down. I think you're using the thematic cards. I think you're really struggling on that, like making this even a facsimile of competitive. I think you don't have a very strong competitive line through this. I think one more I'm going to chime in on is where's our Titan Cliffs? We're playing a 5-hander who needs to cycle cards and get cheating in foundations would seem pretty good right now. I would think being able to discard 3, draw 3 to convert what you need to seems like it would be pretty important in a deck like this.
I would agree for the most part. However, the 6 stiffs aren't that great with what you have access to. Like, the best thing you have is auto regen. But if you compare your Titan Cliffs to, like, discarding some of the foundations which you might rather have in hand, like, sometimes in a 5-hander, it'll be quite tricky to decide if you actually want to maximize on drawing, ditching, and then replaying, or
Sure.
just having cheaper guaranteed attacks, which are easier to pass in a hand size that doesn't tend to build wide very quickly.
Sure.
Hence, a possibility of this, and say, like, the Electric Moss.
I do think you should have gone for the rest thing I'll say. I think you should have gone for referee jury. I think that card's crazy in this character. It does a lot for this character. It's
That part I would agree with. Yeah, referee jury.
if you replace the 2 dual tournaments with 4 juries, so your defense is more comprehensive, I think I would feel a lot better about where your decks would be at competitively. It's given us a lot to think about. Are we good to move on?
Let's move down the table then, and we'll move over to Kai.
So I went for life in the end because I think it's the more competitive symbol. With Midst of Despair being sort of the best card in the deck, and Spiral Wave Surge also trying to keep the string going. Ready Shot is the spicy synergy card. It can pick up Dark Tournament Looms, which we can loop with. We can loop our Dual Needle Lunge, and it's more card draw since he's a 5-hander. It can also pick Rikea's Energy Suction up, which gives us more life gain and synergizes with Channel Energy, which gives us another 2 damage if I've cleared it, and doesn't count towards progressive. Pure Jammer I've added for some easy chip damage, which we can use to get the guaranteed life gain of Rikea, and Hunter's Ally being able to build in on Yankapon, which can make a card not count and also work on defense. It also builds in Urameshis, which we can synergize with Dual Needle Lunge to spend it and pick up one of our tech pieces, most likely being Midst of Despair. Channel Energy being the massive dunk to end a turn on, to clear a couple cards from our card pool and give it more damage. We've got the card draw as Rejuvenating Smash, which synergizes with Dual Needle Lunge and Energy Suction. Beta Shift, which gives both players a card, which is unfortunate as both players, because I want to keep all the cards to myself. Curious About Quirks, which is a lot of the time just guaranteed draw. And Urameshis, which gives us a draw. On defense, we have Incredible Display to pick up our foundations if we block with it. As well, a Cool Interaction. Actually, no, that doesn't work. Desperate Plea, which also builds up our stage. Like Reese says, you want to have a healthy stage as a 5-hander, so you can just string out. Our defense is Fast Friendship, Keiko's Aid, and we can use Recoup Time on defense. Recoup Time also stands as a offensive piece, which we can use to add some extra damage. Uplifting Bond as well, which isn't unique, and we can just firstly gain our health and pair it with Jaw Jammer to make it automatically not count towards progressive, which helps us to play our attacks since we're running a lot of high difficulty cards.
Well, I'm going to ask the exact same first question. Give me the 2-sentence elevator pitch. Why do you think this deck beats out the other 2 competitors?
I think it beats out the 2 competitors because it's better in the life gain situation, and a lot of the cards synergize together, making it more smooth when playing it.
So I do have a quick question. Why did you decide to play 7 zero diffs in your 5-hander?
Because it's as a 500, it's hard to look for spam foundations as well. Best buddies can destroy some of them, destroy some of the black ones to turn them into value. And when playing a high attack count, I want to be able to build out so I can go out on the next turn and not fail my foundations onto the first turn.
Can you identify what your guaranteed life gain cards are for me? I want to make sure I didn't miss any before I give my comments.
Rejuve, Best Buddies, Energy Suction, and Uplifting Hop.
Which
And
energy
technically
suction is
Jawjammer.
dependent on
It's a throw.
damage.
But you're
Sure.
Yeah, and Jawjammer, yeah.
Because I think my one concern here, so I do think like it's got some of the reverse problems that Reese has. It is competitive. I think it is struggling a little bit to feel very Rikia to me. It feels like we're doing a bad Ymir impression. And I think some of the things that scream out to me is Rikia is a 5-hander. You're going to see less foundations. So we would generally want the average quality of our foundations to be higher. And yet we're only running, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 that aren't spam in some kind. That makes sense for a character like Ymir, where you're wanting to play really aggressive, you're wanting to build really quickly, because you're going to have a lot of cards in hand. In our 5-hander, I feel like I want to be playing a lot more 2s and maybe even 3s to make sure that I'm doing big stuff with my foundation pool. I also think like recoup time, we're not getting a lot of advantage out of in this deck, because we're only running 3 foundations that on defense life gain, and we're running a couple more cards that do it on offense potentially. I really think like more life gain defense would have made us feel like we're using Rikia's abilities way more consistently. There is stuff I do like here. I think the Spiral Rave Surge is a good way to get our life down a little bit. It punishes the block, so it encourages us to for them to take the damage, what gives us life. I kind of like that. I like the Jawjammer for chip damage. I like the Ready Shot as like a combo piece. Like there's a lot that I think there is to like here, but I think if I looked at this deck, I would have been like, oh, this is a Ymir deck. I wouldn't feel like there's anything really coming from the Rikia elements that are unique, which even though he is like a worse character, I'm not going to deny that. The fact that he gains extra life on defense does mean he has some different gameplay loops he could be playing than necessarily Ymir is.
He also has the different symbols that he can now pull from the attune side as well. So you're both,
Yeah, I think we
both those
have.
decks would play.
I think we have like one total card that's from a different attune symbol, and I think that's also kind of a missed opportunity to not see more of what evil and Earth can bring us, especially Earth.
That is my one miss currently right now, is that I think that I definitely need a little bit more Earth and Evil splashing in there. Now,
Yeah.
the ones that you did pull through is a good call. I think the Channel Energy, like I was saying before, I think Channel Energy is a fantastic card here. Because it lets you be able to get a 5-hander that wants to string out. It lets you really do that in that regard and be able to push everything through, put a bunch of cards in, do a bunch of damage on your last attack, and then build out without progressive or a small amount of progressive. So I think you're fine there, and you have a decent amount of card draw. Syndicate, and you have a lot of ways to injure yourself, which I do like as well. You need to have a little bit of damage on yourself to be able to heal yourself.
I like the ways to damage ourselves. I just wish there were more ways to convert that back into life gain more consistently. And I think it would feel like much closer to a slam dunk at that point.
So thanks for that, Kai. We'll let you sign off and we'll head over to Richard for the last deck.
Hello.
There we
So
go.
yeah, once again, we've managed to build on 3 different symbols. So I went with the evil symbol. So yeah, we have bacon and katsu curry. Yeah, I thought the evil symbol just because we get some cool stuff. And the evil symbol was kind of cool. It's a bit sort of unloved, so I thought I'd try that. Maybe not leaning into the competitive side, but the main reason I think is anima shot for the evil symbol for me. So I think the meta is a bit skewed in that either you're playing 9 Titans or you're playing anima shot to kill 9 Titans. So I did consider a 9 Titans and doing things like Falling Titans with him, but like, yeah, no. So therefore, I wanted to play Anima Shot. Right, I'm just like I think there's so many backups, especially with things in Turtles coming like Mr. Gecko and stuff. Like you want to have answers, and Anima Shot is one of the cleanest ones, and obviously it gives you a bit of card draw should you do so. So yeah, that's sort of the main reason I went for the evil symbol, just because I want Anima Shot in my deck. Just because anything that can play it, I think should. The Rakia side of it, so I've got a couple of throws, just because although yes, on face we lose a health, and if it deals damage, gain 2 health, but we actually need to deal damage to gain that health, or it does nothing. So we just lose 1 health for no cost, right? So we need ways we're going to connect. So therefore, I've got a couple of throws to start our string. So we've got Hammer Launcher, not the best, but it is a 4-diff, and there's a reason I wanted a 4-diff throw here. And then a couple of Nebula Stairs, big fan of Nebula Stair, just because it lets us build as that 5-hander if we need to early on, gets us that trigger to get that health gain back up. And we've got plenty that only share 1 symbol with our character we can move to the top. Some unyieldings, again, close your ears, Guiles, and stupid infinity symbol cards. We're a 5-hander. We're almost certainly going to be on the better side of this card. So having access to this as something that we can just, knock our opponent down into the Stone Age, I think is a thing to have. Even if they block it, I think you just want to have access to this in that 5-hander. Mr. Despair, so there's a bit of Rakia that's almost like, I think the other guys have sort of lent on it a bit as well, like, that budget Ymir kind of style. Because he can turn this on, and because you can just sort of, again, fling it out of nowhere and have this thing that, you can then play something on the end. We're likely to be wanting to string maybe 2 or 3 cards. Like, that's our realistic goal as a 5-hander. Getting to 4 or 5 is not, likely. So Mitch just sort of helps with that. We, in theory, can turn on the speed. So we got some of the HEA cards and the stuff from, so a bit of self-cut. So part of the other theory behind what I'm doing is because we're a 5-hander, because we're on the evil symbol, we don't get much card draw, right? It just doesn't really exist. So it's more compression in terms of cards. So we've got an Echo here in Double Fist, we've got an Echo here in Tetra Terra, Nebula Stair effectively as an attack and a foundation. Saw the Darkness Flame can draw us a card, but again, another way of getting a bit of self-cut. And Serving Shade is for 2 reasons. Obviously, it's almost like a freebie on his Enhance in terms of we gain the health, therefore we can always flip 1 card after we've played this, and it's momentum out alongside our Echoes. So just having something, that extra little momentum out. So that's sort of our attack lineup. And again, we've got plenty of 4-diffs to pick up with our Tetra Terras. Again, one of the few characters that can effectively get that static twice if we flip it. Maybe would have liked to fit in a 3rd, but it was just block zones on our attacks were very low skewed. Maybe cut one of the Serving Shades to the 3rd Tetra Terra, not sure. Obviously, we're a 5-hander. We don't get to play many green or blue cards. We've got a couple of Barrier Shields. We're on one of these symbol. Barrier Shields is, one of the better defensive options we have. Soup, again, it's a nice way of triggering some life gain throughout our turn, especially just adding extra damage onto a throw, gaining a health. Again, we don't get to play many of them, but just having a couple there as an option. And an Airship, again, part of that attack compression of turning a few attacks into many attacks. So Airship sort of feeds into that. Again, really get to play 1 for a 5-hander. And then in terms of our foundations, so we actually get to do this. So it's one of, it's actually a reasonable 0. So that's the only 0 we're playing. We actually get to flip +2 damage. So, we get a couple of those in stage. We flip a throw off our Enhance. We get to stack a load of damage off, right? Our 1-diff, so Lost for Battle, it's basically our only Bing Bong we get to do with his Enhance. But again, one of the things we want as Rakia is where we're not having a throw, where we want something to connect. This gives us a bit of pseudo speed for free off our Enhance. Paying the cost, another little bit of damage, again, a bit of self-cut to get us that ability to gain the life back should we need to. Incubating, just one of the better speed reduction options. We're going to be filling our discard pile with our enhance, so we're going to have fuel for this. Brief Respite, I would have liked probably Best Buddies over this rather than Brief Respite. However, Block Zone says I need to play Brief Respite. We need some way of triggering life gain on our stage. Obviously, a way of keeping out of deadlock. And, Brief Respite, Best Buddies are our best ones. This one because of Block Zones. Desperate Plea, we've got the life symbol. It's one of the better foundations we can play. Hence, we're playing it again. Lets us build off our defense. Beta Shift, I don't like it. It was just that one extra high block slot that gives us a card. We don't really want to play it, but again, our options are limited on evil. Summoned Home, again, was just a bit of a low block spam that gets us either get some sort of stats on our attack just as a free flip cost, or again, another way of gaining some health should we need to. Co-op offer, bit of speed hate, and also we can then stack damage. So again, midway through a string, if we fill up a throw, we could then, turn some of these sideways, flip some of these, and all of a sudden we've got a 12 damage throw coming out of nowhere. Pageant Queen, high blocks, defense, it's really good. Rifle Arm, so this is sort of one of those really nice foundations in terms of going both ways. So one of the things we really need to be able to do is connect with our attack in order to gain that health and therefore turn our second enhancement. Rifle Arm not only allows us to play defense with it, but it allows us to stack some speed. If we don't have that throw to lead off with, we lead off with, like I said, an animus shot, we can then chuck 3 speed on it, right? With that Rifle Arm, so again, it goes both ways. Growing Unease, I don't like it, but it is some card draw and evil. It's we have to make do. Then again, we can use it on the opponent's turn if we need it. Moment of Normalcy, stupid Infinity cards. 3 diffs. I kind of wanted to play lots of all of these. I could have, manipulated numbers. Invincible Bodies are nice. Again, if we run out of blocks, just set something to 0. Me and Hange, one of those better just draw cards. Again, because we're a 5-hander, we're probably going to empty quite quickly. So it actually almost turns into a draw too sometimes. Uplifting Bond. One of those cards I've always wanted to make work and never quite got to make work. And there's actually sort of space in here to add one. And again, if we lead off with that throw, we gain a health. It's going to deal the damage. It's not going to count towards regressive. We can continue playing. And again, just a little bit of life gain, but I don't want to have too much of this effect. So just the one-off. It's one of those cards that may well end up getting cut if you end up playing with this deck even more. And then Moment of Peace. Deadlock Pressure is few and far between. The works in here. So again, a little bit of positive speed or negative speed, a little bit of health gain, and then a little bit of Deadlock Pressure. So yeah, that's the sort of theme of it, really.
Sure.
Yeah, so we'll start for you again this time, Justin, if you got anything you want to ask or say.
So the most interesting inclusion or exclusion, I guess is the correct word, is the lack of recuperation time. What was your reasoning for that?
Because the ability to turn on the life gain was fairly, the opponent has a lot of agency on it, right?
Sure.
So your enhance only happens after the attack, therefore does nothing. Brief Respite obviously can turn it on, but there's not too much in terms of mid-attack life gain in this. It's more as a result of other stuff. So therefore, recoup time probably just isn't good enough here. That's why we've got more defensive, like speed hate pieces, like Barrier Shield, Co-op, Pageant Queen, Moment of Normalcy, because we're going to play more, we're going to actually have to try and block stuff in order to survive.
Sure.
And so I don't think recoup time works in this deck because we don't really have health gain on face. We're not in there. We don't get to just turn it on for free. So therefore, I don't think recoup time, at least in the way I built this, really works.
Yeah.
If we don't have a brief respite, recoup time does nothing. So it's just
Sure.
a bunch of
I will say, I think for the most part, there's a lot I think there is to like about this deck. A lot of really unique cards that I think are straddling that line of I could see this showing up in a competitive deck and also being uniquely beneficial here. Serving Shade, like we've seen it in the Earth build, but it feels more fitting here because of paying the cost. The idea that now paying the cost converts straight into a free +2 damage sounds really cool. Like that is a really exciting notion that you specifically get here. I also think like Nebula Stare is uniquely beneficial here. Like obviously playing some throws allows us to get some damage. We get some damage here. We get to build it down, blow it up with the brief respite. Thank you. We get blow up with the brief respite, gain health, and use that to try to pick something up.
Because
I think
you can play his stuff on defense, right? Like his enhanced works on defense.
yeah, so I really like that. I think that's a really cool angle for it. I think like Tetra Terror was a card that I was kind of surprised I hadn't seen in any of the builds so far. This feels like a very classic Rikia idea right here. It gets over us being a 5-hander by being able to convert into 2 attacks. Unyielding, I think, is a really smart one here. You're going to blow up a lot of your stuff with Brief Respite, and Invincible Body blows itself up, and Defending Pageant Queen blows itself up. So I think like it is very realistic for you to be stuck on the backswing, where like you've debuilt yourself too much to do much. So the idea that Unyielding kind of equalizes that board state after you've blown up a lot of your stuff, great idea.
I'm gonna go ahead and just ask the same question I did. Give me your elevator pitch.
The elevator pitch is the best I could do with this character.
I was gonna say the other thing. Can you do me a favor and click on the sort cards by control? Yeah, I was thinking you were a little bit more heavier on the 4s, but you're only running.
So do I.
7.
The moment you asked that question, I'm like, oh crap, did I play too many 4s? But actually, it turns out there's not too many.
And I'll actually give some credit here. I think both the barrier shield and the idea of like brief respite, pop lust for battle is kind of doing enough of that the evil symbol still is feeling represented here.
And the name of your deck is?
Bacon and katsu curry.
Thanks for the free builds. Any closing remarks from the judges before we retire to the judging table?
I'm glad to see that all 3 symbols were represented from each of the bakers, and I'm really happy to see the results of the bakes as well. All 3 of these look like definitely decks that could make it to a regional. The character is definitely a little bit on the lower power side, so it's definitely an uphill climb no matter what, but I could definitely see these decks showing up and having a good time at a competitive event.
I think it's cool that all 3 symbols are represented. I wish there was more straddling the line of like competitive while still feeling unique. I think at least for some of the competitors, they were too much in one direction or the other and not enough in the middle. So that's definitely going to be one of the things I'm considering the most as we go kind of talk about our judging.
That makes a lot of sense. So we'll now retire to the judging table. We'll let you guys stew together and talk about your builds and how you guys get on. And we'll be back as soon as we've got a decision.
Very good job, guys.
I think I know what my answer is in both directions. Guile, what's your opinion?
So I definitely, in my mind, already kind of have my list of where I'm at. I guess my big question is from your prompt, which was the most important piece that you were looking for? Was it the competitiveness? Was it to make Rukia cool? Was it, what were you looking for overall?
It's the Goldilocks. It's the idea of like, if you are 10 out of 10 on one and 0 out of 10 on the other, it's just as bad no matter which direction you're in. You need to find that just right middle ground between the two. I think if you are in a situation where one is doing much worse than the other, you would probably pick the one that just has completely failed as a competitive deck, unless it's absolutely nailed it at feeling like Rikia. Like, I don't necessarily want a deck that's a Rikia challenger deck in principle.
Okay. Yeah.
I know for me where I am, since it sounds like we both kind of have our list, I think Richard's my star one. I think Richard nailed the line. I think Moment of Normalcy like makes a ton of sense here. It's almost in a lot of situations kind of a repeatable referee jury. And like I think Invincible Body and Defending Pageant Queen, while maybe bumping those up would have been a little nicer, I think are very good in this sort of deck's game plan. I think my loser is Reese, because I think Reese has too many cards that feel nonsensical in this deck. I have a real hard time understanding why Battle Bandaged is in this deck. Outman Defensive that has a Cycle Lock ability feels weird because I don't know how this deck's ever surviving to cycling. I just don't think it like... I think it's a thing that's like on paper, it reads as probably a little more like Rikia than Kai's deck does. But in practice, I think when you're going to sit down and play the game, you're not going to get that feel because you're just going to die too quickly.
I think my issue with Reese's deck is I struggled identifying my lead-off attack, the attack I want to play first.
That was something I was going to bring through as well. Yeah. I agree with you on I think who's going to go home. I think all three of us think that Reese, while the deck is good and fine, out of the three, it definitely feels like the most not cohesive bake. It feels a little bit mixed in. I actually think Kai's deck was a little bit better than Richard's, honestly, personally. And again, it might be just because it was more on focus with that life, and I feel like it doesn't have as many tricks as the Evo build does, but I felt the game plan was a lot more linear, in your face. Like, you knew, no matter what 5 cards you draw, you knew what your game plan was going to be with all 5 of those cards.
I think if it had one more foundation that life gained, I might be more on board. Like,
That's fair.
I think just in practice, I think the zero diffs are really what's doing it in for me, because we are taking up so much deck space with those zero diffs in a way that I don't think is necessary and doesn't play towards the game plan of our character at all.
With the steady shots, the jaw jammers, and all like the cool 4 diffs that Kai was running, I was very surprised not to see Tetch Terror in his build.
Yeah. I
will agree on that one. Yeah, that was definitely a miss that should have been in the deck for sure.
That makes sense. You guys seem to have decided as to who you want to go home. So if you want, we can head back over and you can give the decision, Justin. Hello, Bakers. This is possibly the fastest one we've had. I mean, Rebby and Snuggy took the longest, as Richard will attest, wanting to break down everyone's decks again. But it does appear that the judges were very quickly paying attention and kind of immediately finding the cohesion of your builds, and have come to a decision quite quickly based on the Goldilocks principle that Justin was putting in. I will let him explain that a little bit more as he renders the decision of the judges. Take it away, Justin.
Yeah. So first of all, what I've been looking for when I really gave this concept, because it's not hard to make a competitive deck that your character's blank. I mean, that's like, it's not going to be a competitive deck, but you can make a facsimile of a competitive deck. That's the Bearded Titan principle at its finest. And so I was looking for something that walked that sweet spot of a deck that felt like we were sitting down, we were playing a competitive, strong deck, but also that we were feeling like Rikia. And Guile and I disagreed a little bit on who the star baker was, but as the head judge, I think I do get a little bit higher say in that, head judge of this round. So I am going to give who I think was the number 1 before I name who the final 2 we have to decide between are. I gave it over to Richard as a number 1. Yeah, I'll do a virtual handshake. Here you go. I'm handshaking to the camera. I think that it did the most like cards that you wouldn't see in another deck, but make competitive sense in Rikia. The paying the cost plus serving shade to do this sort of life gain combo that's also getting us extra damage was really cool and interesting. The Nebulous Stare building down that we're popping feels great. I think Moment of Normalcy was an idea that was missed in a lot of other decks, that when we're playing this more take damage to gain health, being able to reset 1 to print it just makes a lot of sense. I think it straddled the line the best, and that's why I gave it as the star baker. Between the remaining 2, I think, in my opinion, both really struggled in one of the 2 directions. On one hand, one deck struggled to be feel like Rikia. It had some life gain stuff, but it felt like we were just playing bad Ymir. Not really doing much, taking advantage of the fact that we're trying to take some damage on defense or anything like that. On the other hand, the other deck I think really struggled to make sense as a competitive deck. Obviously, this deck was always going to struggle to be truly competitive, but it was running a lot of attack options that I felt just didn't make a lot of sense and felt like it was going in too many different competitive directions at once. So in a situation where I don't think either of the 2 decks really hit that Goldilocks principle, I have to choose between one of the 2. And the words that came out first were competitive. I wanted the deck to be competitive. So for that reason, I chose for the second person to move on to the next round to be Kai's deck, which means, unfortunately, Reese, you are going home at this point.
Hashtag I was playing Servant Shade and you didn't mention it.
I mentioned it when we were talking about it, but it wasn't doing as much as Richard's Serving Shade was.
So, unfortunately, Reese, this is where we do lose you, but this does mean you can get onto the other stream that you were supposed to be doing at this time. We do appreciate you being here for this. Do you have any final words or anything you'd like to say about your time on the Bake Off?
Bro, I really wish you'd picked a Turtles character. I was ready to bring Leatherhead into the game.
Unfortunately, that is where we've lost Reese. Reese has just left. I would have loved to see the TMNT character myself, but the judges are the masters of their own domain. And Justin went with a very unique character. Did bring up Bearded Titan, then that would have been a very interesting one to go down with in the finals. But I think Rikier was a great way to go. Kai and Richard, how you feel about moving on to the final round?
Not good.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Kai's struggle, as I mentioned in the interim, because obviously Mike isn't building it for him. But there's your weekly Mike shout out, Brett. You're welcome.
Mike gets a weekly shout out. I will now hand you over to Guile, who will be telling you what your final build around is. And Guile kind of cooked with this.
Bakers. Right now, you have succeeded in 3 bakes, basically back to back. You won your preliminary competitive rounds, came here, have won Justin's great character that he chose. Now it's time to go in the opposite direction. All of these bakes, you've been given ingredients that have been very specifically tailored to what the judge is looking for. I'm going to give you a breadth of ingredients. Everything is going to be on the table for you for this build. I can't let you just go crazy wild. That's not how this game works. I was told no by Brett. It's fine. I'm going to give you a couple little stipulations here. Your deck must be a standard legal deck. Your deck must contain only 2 IPs. Your choice on which the IPs are, whatever you want from there. That's what we're going for there. And to even this out a little bit from the newer characters to the older characters, you'll be allowed 1 primary symbol and only 1 attune symbol to do this build on. Now, that's a lot of freedom. That's a lot of cool things you guys get to do. I'm going to rein you in just a little bit more, because I want this deck and the character that you pick and the mechanic for you want your deck to be really showcasing to be a story of you as a UVS player. I don't care if the character is good, bad, top tier, bottom tier. That doesn't matter. I want a fun locals deck that you would love to bring to your locals and just have a great time. And if it wins locals, that's cool, that's awesome, that's great. But I want this deck to be yours, and that's what I want you all to bake.
So that was a lot of information, so let's quickly just go back over it. So, only 2 IPs, only 1 symbol and 1 attune symbol, a nice, fun, standard level deck that reflects you as a player. UVS is a company that, as Universus, takes in IPs, adapts players and showcases their personality and who they are in the cards. Now Guile wants you to take those cards and build a jigsaw of yourself and your personality from what Universus has given you. Are you guys up for the challenge?
I think this is either going to be the easiest bake for somebody or the absolute toughest bake for somebody. I think it's going to be really to hone in what cards that you want. Like I said, this has to be locals competitive level. I don't want this to be just, 60 cards in the bin, call it a day. I want this deck to be able to play the game. We're in for that.
And we're looking for characters that have the same kind of personality or how you see yourself.
All right, bakers, are you guys ready?
Are you guys ready to go?
No.
Well, your 30 minutes is going to start.
Also,
get out of the room right now. Let's go. Come on, let's
this
go.
seems like a dig against me, because guess what isn't in standard?
Rinku's in standard.
There's a lot of cards not standard.
Bubble Boy isn't in standard.
Yeah,
fair. That's fair.
but Tokiyami isn't in standard, and that is literally Richard's edginess.
And only 2 IPs.
Only 2
Correct,
IPs.
Yes, you are limited. Anything in the IP that is standard legal is allowed to go, but you are limited to 2 IPs.
Yeah, so if you choose Critical Role, you get the challenges and the main set. If you choose My Hero, you get the biggest card pool, which may be a detriment because of how many cards you have to look through. If you choose Street Fighter, you have 46 cards to look at.
I want you in a deck.
So I'll let you guys get off to your tables. We'll start the 30-minute timer, and I'm very excited to see what the build is going to be from here. And how you're going to explain your decisions. That's
The question is, who comes up with the better jokes for themselves? That's what I need to hear.
I mean, I won't say it's part of the judging, but I definitely will not, the jokes are fine. The jokes are good.
But that's the thing. Are we looking for someone who is more honest? Are we looking for someone who's going to be... It's more going to come down to how they explain the deck than what they build.
To me, this is all about presentation. You present me a good story with your deck, and I'm on board.
Yes, 100%. They have to sell me on this deck. And that's part of the reason why I chose the question I did last round. Because I knew what was coming up. I want to give them a little bit of prep time in that thought process. they're going to have to give me another elevator pitch. It's going to be a little bit longer. It's not going to be 2 sentences.
No.
But at the end of the day, they have to really just bring to me something that really feels like what they want Universus to be at the end.
So
See, I'm glad I'm not in this challenge because I would just be picking Smiling Titan. That would
Give me
be
a new
all for
judge.
me.
Bring me another one. Bring in this very gun.
but it's one of the things that
It's true.
if you put the Smiling Titan down, that's cool because everyone knows you as Smiling Titan. But what are you putting in that deck that isn't a Smiling Titan deck, but is a Justin deck?
Correct.
All Might 5 because America. That's the answer.
Any all.
America.
Which one shares symbol with the Stars and Stripes card?
Ooh.
Not
Hold on.
7. Yeah, I gotta alter that one.
Unfortunately, that Stars and Stripes card does not have Smiling Titan symbol. If you were doing the All Might stuff, you'd have to play on the life symbol. Would be the only one you could go.
But that's just the kind of thing. Justin would be steering into the meme of the American representative
As
player.
American as apple pie.
But it's one of those things that if I had this challenge, Guy would probably expect me to go down the Dabby route because that's how everyone knows me. But
Yeah.
that's not how I see myself. I would probably more go down something like Midnight 2.
Hold on.
I was
There we
thinking
go.
Mina. Honestly.
Brett, you
But-
see yourself as a superhero character?
Look,
Am I understanding the premise
That's
correctly?
what happens when the
Not
cameras
the-
are off.
see,
when
not-
the cameras
not-
are off, fine.
Not the personality of the character, but the card. The way the
Art.
card plays, the way the card does stuff is how I like to play. And when I can utilize that with things like Gravity Well, which allows me to control my opponent whilst increasing damage, and still getting access to, say, things like Sweeping Daggers, that's more my play style. And
See, I'm less interested in the mechanic side here because I think the answer is what character fits you mechanically. That's going to be what character do you play in standard, probably. Or at least which ones have you tried to make work in standard? Yeah, I would pick Smiling Titan mechanically because I love big attacks and forechecks and all of that. But I'm looking for the flavor. I'm looking for the narrative they are telling with this. What is the story I'm getting, not mechanically, but through the art, the cards you have chosen aesthetically?
Both your opinions are 100% correct for this challenge. And that's what I think makes a little bit of a harder one and very good for the finals. You have to interpret the challenge, you have to interpret the deck, and you have to interpret what we are going to be looking for. And that last one is going to be very much based on what you said. It's going to be the story that you're telling me when you're showing off this deck. Justin, if you had this exact prompt, you don't have to go into the full deck, but what's the character? What's the 2 IPs?
So, legitimately, memes aside, I think I avoid Smiling Titan. There's a narrative reason for Smiling Titan because actually I know what it is. It is Tarion forechecks. I think Tarion shows off the melodramatic way in which I do things, the kind of silly way in which I think about the game and everything, and then the forecheck attacks are reflective of my actual play style of playing super defined offense and things like that.
I had to think about this one too because I want to make sure that I could build this as well because I want to give them an impossible challenge. I'm still on TMNT. I think TMNT is the right call for my other one. I think I would actually go more in line of how Grog wants to play the game.
Ooh.
And how this is. Mechanically, I really enjoyed having that kind of, I don't want to say safety net with the damage reduction thing there and the rage counters, but it allows you to play almost any game style very, very well. And while I tend to stay on the mid-range control side very often, I think he's something that you wouldn't expect to pop out and has now some actual good options for longer games. And
Sure.
I think kind of that's where I've been. That's kind of been my niche of I really want to build this. I'm gonna build Leatherhead first because that's what I'm known for, and I'm gonna build Bishop and Spotlight. But if I get time to do a pet deck, I think that's gonna be my pet deck.
Right, so who would you like to start off with in terms of looking at the tables?
Okay, so yeah, let's start with Richard.
Hello, Richard.
Hello.
Hello.
So I see we've got MHA as one of your IPs.
We do. Given I'm adding 4 Blade Tooth to my deck, you might be able to guess what I'm doing.
Oh,
So we've got MHA and Critical Role. So
ooh.
I'll go through all
okay.
when we get to the thing. But obviously, if I'm making a me deck, then it's this, isn't it? This is my identity in this game. It's this card. That's sort of where. Now, I'm going to disappoint you, Guile, because I did have an idea originally, which was
Shindemoto? I do love Shindemoto.
I love Psy games, so that was like if I can get this done quickly, then I might do that and see what I prefer out of the two. But yeah, so like this is almost muscle memory putting this together, like in terms of the attack lineup and stuff. So and
Yeah.
Vax is just his aggro, and that's what I want to do. He just stacks loads of damage on stuff. Like it's not big, it's not clever, but that's sort of Storm of Blades is my card, like it's my handle on Twitch. So that was the natural one to go to.
No, that 100% makes sense on that. And it's neat that even though you're focusing on the one card, your character is from a different IP as well. So that allows a lot more dynamics for it. Because Moonfish with Storm Blades would not be getting any cool points, I ain't gonna lie. But a different character with Storm Blades. All right, now we're talking on there.
Yeah. Again, there's a reason I picked the two IPs, just because like MHA was the one that got me into this game, and I've always been a D&D head. So like that's why those two IPs, not necessarily from power level perspective.
Yeah, that's when we were talking before I came to the tables, we were also talking about like how the IP, even though we're all three of us are known for a character that we play, we all would have picked different characters to build on too. So it's really neat to see it. That's holding true here as well. So.
Yeah, there is. I think like Vax is probably out of those two IPs the best option in terms of like.
You're running Air Primary and Void as your one attune?
No, Air with Death.
Oh, okay.
Although most things are Air anyway. I don't really have anything, mainly because I like being able to steal stuff, and like my foundation gonna be shit. So part of it was just so I can play Tranquility Deck. I wonder if I should be playing Void, to be honest. So that's something I might look at. But yeah, so at this point it's literally just reducing it down. But I might look at Void actually, because I don't think my attack.
That's something you got to look into. Again, this is about you.
Yeah.
Are you an Air player? Are you a Void player? Like what
I love the Void.
You're gonna have to
symbol.
convince me to play this deck at the end of the day. That's gonna be what's gonna be. So.
Yeah.
But is it about you loving the void symbol, or does the void symbol mechanically speak to you as a person?
I love the Void symbol. Like I think my favorite deck I ever had in this game was Void Kicks All for One. Not necessarily wasn't necessarily the best deck. I just loved it. It was just like from a just enjoyment perspective, I loved playing that deck. So I feel like I need to stick to my roots and actually play Void.
So I do want to ask, do you have a personal connection to either of these IPs beyond Universus, or is this just like this is how I feel in the card game?
So My Hero was why I got into the game, because my son was a fan of My Hero, and that's why I initially bought like the Deku starter set. It's because I thought he loved My Hero, so I bought the Deku starter box as something we could do together, and that sort of went from there. And then, like, I've always been a D&D head, so that's why I picked the Critical Role stuff, because like it's probably like I'm not really an anime guy. Like My Hero was the one I got into because my son liked it, but like from a flavor perspective, I think the Critical Role one's the one I most enjoyed because like at heart I'm a D&D head more than an anime head.
Right, you've got just under 15 minutes left, so we'll go check in. Okay, perfect. Ooh,
all right.
Interesting.
I chose Wingnut because probably you don't know, but Brett might know this, but I'm a techie guy and I like to build things. I also like rodent animals and animals that usually other people don't like. Mostly every card in this deck is a story. So I chose with Mechazoid to start with. I built a Mechazoid deck because Mechazoid, I really like backup decks. I went with TMNT and Critical Role. And since I've been a child, I've been a massive fan of TMNT. Wingnut Sabotage is me being annoying, but the Brett, do you know this? But I like to paint and build Warhammer. I do Warhammer a lot, so that's why I chose with the Mechazoids as well. So building the Mechazoid army is me in real life building my Warhammer army to play with my brother. And collecting scraps is me getting pocket money to pay for the Warhammer. Sweeping daggers is me stealing deck lists of Mike.
Now that one even I know. That one's 100% true.
Yeah. Jealous, it's me being jealous of Mike topping. Juggling groceries is because I go to the shops to collect some groceries for my mum. I'd love to play this deck at locals when I get my hands on the cards because I really love backup decks and it's not too sweaty, so it will be enjoyable to play against. And
Oh, that's awesome. It's looking real good.
I chose Void as my main symbol because Mike says I'm an edgy teenager, and Void is edgy. And my edgy symbol is.
Okay, yeah, that was what I was going to ask on that for sure. But Wing not only having the two, I knew it had to be one of the others. So it looks like you have a very good like base, and definitely have a lot of time to like see if you want to. Because you're not locked in. When I say that, you can 100% change if there's a critical role card that you want or anything like that. But no, that's definitely fun.
In many ways, I'm waiting for the final story to be told on these because I don't want to I can't really give advice about what should be in here because it's your story. I will be very interested in seeing because you're going for more like individual flavor choices over like as cohesive of a combination, which will be interesting to see how that plays out in final judging.
Best luck, Kai.
Good luck.
This one's going to be a hard one to judge, and in some ways I'm going to defer a little bit to Guile as we kind of see it because right now they're looking at going two different directions. Richard seems to be more about like one central piece that matters to him and then building the rest of the deck around it, while Kai's going for more every individual card is telling its own part of the story. It'll be interesting to see which one we end up prioritizing in final judging. I don't know where Guile's leaning with that.
So before Guile answers that, I just want to quickly ask one question about it. During the brief, during what you were saying to people, at the end of it, you were saying, what does Universus mean to you in a deck kind of aspect? And I think both players have kind of lost that aspect, whereas Richard is building a Universus deck that is around IPs that got him into the game or IPs that he likes, and Kai is trying to capture moments and aspects of his life in the deck. Neither kind of going, this is what Universus means to me.
Yes and no. I don't see it 100% completely the opposite way in that regard, but I am seeing how Universus is being translated, which might be a different way to interpret it. Because for Richard, it's about him and the kids playing a game together, having fun, learning together. It brought him into anime with My Hero. D&D has always been a big thing for him, as he was saying. So like the deck makes sense via the prompt. And it's the exact same for Kai. Kai is where I think the differences between them currently right now is Richard's deck is the whole like overview. It's very macro. And Kai's deck is very micro, where each individual card is speaking specifically to it. Go ahead.
I just realized that this entire prompt is the most UVS Games marketing way Guile could have done a prompt. I applaud you, good sir.
Whoa! I want to throw him a curveball.
Yeah, look at all these amazing ways in which one's life can be translated into Universus.
We don't make that characters. You guys just decide you don't want to play them. That's all.
Oh, sorry. We don't make Universus. We don't make bad cards.
It was a real big surprise seeing Wingnut, but Kai kind of explained it quite well. Vaxeldan wasn't as big as a surprise, but I know Richard is very big into his Star Trek, so not running with the Star Trek cards, which shows that he did put a lot of thought into what the IPs mean to him.
I think,
I'll be honest, I thought Richard was going to grab Star Trek and My Hero. My Hero for the same reason, but also...
I get Star Trek not being included because it is specifically Star Trek lower decks. And, like, I know a lot of people who care a lot about Star Trek who don't care even the slightest about lower decks. And the only card that really feels like there's a lot of overlap is, like, Badgie.
A lot of the fans actually do enjoy it, and, like, they do consider it to be canon and stuff. But it's
Sure.
very different. I will 100% agree with you that it is a very different show.
I don't want to say there aren't Star Trek fans who enjoy both. I'm just saying that a large percentage of Star Trek fans are like Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, or OG fans, not necessarily Lower Decks fans.
I'm a strange new like.
There's not much, usually we kind of sit here, we can talk about the builds and how we like it, but like you said with Kai, Justin, we have to wait until we hear the story. We can't judge these decks until we hear how they put themselves into them.
It is the exact opposite of every other prompt that you've had on the show. And I think that's what makes it a finals-worthy challenge.
Yeah.
Look at Guile patting himself on the back right now.
I know, right? It's very rare, very, very small pat. Like,
Look at how amazing of a challenge I chose.
Well, what I would have been surprised with is if anyone... So we've done, 4 episodes now, and no one has used the UGN deck builder. And I'm very disappointed with that. I wanted at least one person... We had one person use Tapped Out to build their deck.
Okay, Guile is not allowed to comment on this. I will comment on it. Yeah, that's because the UGN one is terrible.
Well, I know you've teased that there are changes to UGN coming in different aspects, and deck builder is something you're aware of. So hopefully we can kind of get to the point where Bake Off can run through UGN just as it is, because that would be great. But that is...
You'll get no information from me, but it does sound like it's time. I heard that beep.
Yeah, that is time.
And I need to get off the...
That is, again, very good timing.
I now need the backup judge.
We're going to drag these guys in. Hello, Kai. Hello, Richard. How are you guys feeling after doing some self-reflections?
Yeah.
I love the
Kai
confidence
is
in which
still
these people
muted.
walk in.
Richard has no confidence.
I have even less confidence than Richard.
This has just been a great prompt for their mental health. Good job, Guile. Guile.
Who wants to go first? I'll leave it up to you both. Who wants to go first? Rich already has a stream open, so we're on Richard right now.
Okay.
He has saved me from having to commit to any committals. My stage is still uncommitted. Go ahead.
So, unfortunately, I didn't get around to naming the deck properly, which is the bit that I'm a little bit disappointed in myself, to be honest.
Well, give us a name right now. What's the name?
If the task is what is me in this game, the first thing that came to mind was like what set, and also like there's 2 things I guess that I enjoy doing in this game. One of them is just playing 7-hand side stupid aggro, aka Tokiyami. Another thing is Storm of Blades. Like, it's just the card I enjoy the most. I love the sort of casino style of it. I did consider trying to curry a little favor with the judges and building a Shinnomoto deck, because I know Guile loves that. And also, I'd also love it because it is reminiscent of the side game from another game we used to play. But I figured that would be a little too on the nose.
Too pandering.
Yeah, exactly. so we went with Storm of Blades because it's just like I say, my favorite card in the game. I love everything that it does. It's not necessarily good, but it's just, I think the most fun thing you can do in this game is just to resolve a Storm of Blades and flip 5 and see what happens. So that's where I went with. And in terms of like the 2 sets, so as we were talking about in the sort of in-betweeny bit, that was sort of, I think, for me, easy. Like, you know, I could pick UU because it's arguably the most powerful set, or Attack on Titan because it's got the most cards. But honestly, for me, that, you know, there's my hero as an IP was the reason I got into this game, right? I wanted something to play with my son, and he was a big fan of My Hero at the time. You know, he's a bit older now, so doesn't really watch it so much, but that's why I bought the Deku stuff and, you know, a Series 1 booster box, and then we just played. We both really enjoyed it, and obviously I got into it a lot more than he did. And then Critical Role, just because it's the set I've kind of gelled with the most as a person. Like, you know, I've always been a bit of a D&D head, so that's much more than, like, you know, whenever we used to do the podcast, Brett would waffle on about anime stuff, and I didn't have a Scooby what he was going on about. Like, I've never watched Attack on Titan. I watched a couple of seasons of My Hero. It's not really my jam, but D&D, like, I loved the Critical Role set just because of the setting. So to me, those are the 2 obvious sets to pick. And then, so in terms of attack lineup, it's like my old favorite combo, Stormer Blades and Piercing Barrage. Like, I'm not really a high rarity guy. I don't tend to bling things out. But I got myself 4XR Stormer Blades, 4XR Piercing Barrage, and I love to crack them out. And then the best, so obviously in terms of symbols, so we picked Void as the main symbol with Air as our sub symbol. Void just is my favorite symbol in this game. I love the sort of that slightly control-y aspect of it, but it's just had a lot of cards I've enjoyed. I sort of fell in love with it when you had the old Kicks package back in MHA1, but I've just enjoyed the Void symbol as a whole. So then I guess that leads us to then Vax, right, as our character. If we're going to do the Stormer Blades thing, he wants to play weapons, he wants to play lots of attacks, he wants to string. That's what Stormer Blades does. So just makes a lot of sense with Vax. And obviously Stormer Blades being a 3 mid-3, it needs damage. Vax does the damage. Like, so then you got Sniping Spy as a way of just sort of getting extra damage, being able to push even harder. Aerial Goblin Bolt, because it's the thing we can stack damage on, and obviously Aerial Goblin Bolt's cracked. And then Stabbing Dagger as our sort of best weapon option on the symbol as a low block. And actually pretty decent, like he's the thief, he gets through the blitz. Usually you can turn it on, so it's coming in as a 5 low 5 plus whatever the Vax gives it. So it's a very simple attack package, but Stormer Blades ones do tend to be very simple. Again, it's sort of a bit muscle memory when it comes to building Stormer Blades sort of attack lineups. And then we've obviously kept it to a very lean 60 because we want to guarantee we're hitting off. We're trying to do the whammy. And to this day, my son never lets me forget the time I managed to do all 4 in one row. A single Cabal's in. I'm a big fan of the card. Again, he's a thief. He gets to turn it on. Bit of speed hate, bit of extra damage. A single barrier shield, a bit of defense on the Void symbol. Again, we don't get to play many. We're playing ones. Our foundation lineup. So we've got plenty of zeros. Master's Pride isn't necessarily the best here, but it's a bit of deadlock and also a bit of a callback to All for One of my favorite decks I've ever had. Wasn't the best, wasn't the most competitive, but I loved everything about it. So just chuck that in there as a zero, bit of callback one. Obviously keeping every sake because it's actually good. Reluctant role model, which is basically what I am to my locals. Like, you know, I know they'll say otherwise, but I'm obviously the guy they will look up to. Again, another little throwback to the All for One, and also just the amount of times I've had to explain weird rules interactions to my locals, and Force Quirk being one of them, and having to convince them that no, it doesn't work the way you think it does, and all of the other apocrypha that UVS has in terms of how card effects actually work. Weather Blades, I love it. It's also a good card. I tend to chuck a 1 Weather Blades in whenever I can. Hacker Extraordinaire. It's not necessarily the best card in this deck, but it's basically what I do for a living. I'm a coder, so it's just a little bit of me, and also I like the hacker. Pressure Royal for 1, just because it's actually good. Again, getting that kind of All for One flavor when I can't build Void Kicks All for One in standard anymore. And Tinker's Touch, just because it's actually just quite good. I'm thinking this, but again, we're only playing one of these twos just because we're playing 1s and 2 checks. So it's not big and it's not clever. It's not complicated, but Stormer Blades isn't. And if I want to play big and clever, I'm not playing Stormer Blades. Stormer Blades is just to spin the wheel and see what happens and have fun with it. And that's what I've always loved about the card and why it's sort of the obvious thing for me.
So once again, same question I asked in the last other rounds is give me 1 or 2 sentences on an elevator pitch of why you're building this and why you're bringing this to locals.
Because everyone knows me as loving Stormblade, right? It's my Twitch handle. One of my locals, Harry, I think after seeing me do ridiculous things with Stormblades, he fell in love with just sort of those 1s and 2 checks and the stupid things they can do, and just the fun of checking a 1 at the wrong time and the laughs that entail. We had our store championship, and he bought whatever the Attack on Titan character that won Warhammer Titan, just because he got to play loads of 1s and 2s. And won the tournament and had a lot of fun and laughed whenever he checked the 1. You know, this isn't necessarily going to win a locals, but I'm going to have some fun, and at some point I'm going to flip all 4 in a row, and then my son's going to hate me for another 5 years.
So I really like the ideas that are going here. I think it's interesting choosing less like every individual attack seems to represent you, and more like here's a build around package around Storm of Blades, and Storm of Blades what really is what you're connecting to. And I like that approach, but it's one I wasn't expecting as much. I think you've given us a lot to think about in terms of like how well this is representing you and things like that.
Makes a lot of sense. We'll head over to Kai and see how Kai brought himself into the game.
So Mechazoid is in the deck because my favorite mechanic in the game right now is backups, and I love playing with backups. Wingnut is the character I chose because I like rodent animals that most people find annoying, and my personality is similar to one because I'm small, I'm nimble, and I'm similar to Wingnut in the fact that I like to build things, and I like to. I'm a tech guy. Same as Richard. This is on Void, and the attune symbol is air, but it can be swapped around the other way. Start off with Sweeping Daggers. It's self-explanatory. Sweeping Daggers steals your attacks, and Sweeping Daggers is me stealing Mike's decks. If I have an anima shot, I'm removing a card from their hand, so I'm not stealing it, but I'm taking it from them. So that's me taking the decks of Mike. Collecting scraps is me, because I do play Warhammer, is me collecting pocket money to buy the figures for Warhammer. Mechazoid Onslaught is me assembling them and creating my Warhammer army. And then juggling groceries is me going to the store and getting groceries. Totally Not Jealous is me being jealous of Mike topping and me not topping. And this is a deck I take to locals because I really enjoy TMNT, and I think it's probably the coolest thing that has come out of this game. I've liked TMNT as a kid, so I just decided to use it as TMNT and Critical Role. This is a deck I take to locals because it's a combination of a lot of things I love: Ninja Turtles and backups.
I think you might have just answered it, but I'll head over to Guile to do his elevator pitch question.
Yeah, he basically answered it for her. He knew it was coming. So yeah, like with that being your elevator pitch, now I have to ask another question on that. Something I'm seeing that your deck is very much compared to Richard's. You mostly stayed really within TMNT and then had like a couple sprinklings of the other IP with Critical Role in there. Is that just because you felt a lot more towards TMNT, or was it just you didn't find a lot of Critical Role cards or another IP?
It's because I fell a lot towards TMNT, and I've been a massive fan of it since I was young, so it's been a big part of my life. So it's going to be a big part of my deck.
100% makes sense. I just wasn't sure. I want to be sure if it was a stylistic choice or if it was just a time thing or what you were grabbing.
I like the TMNT half a lot, and obviously, like you know, you're more connected to TMNT. I think my only concern when I'm looking at the deck is that like I'm not sure. The Critical Role feels a little shoehorned in. Like I get you have some justifications for some of the cards, but this feels more like in terms of how we cast out the stories, like TMNT Spotlight, which is the sprinkling of Critical Role without it feeling as much as contributing to the story.
So Richard had a personal reason for selecting both of his IPs. You have stated repeatedly your love of TMNT and why that's in there. Is there any particular connection you have to Critical Role, or was it the cards that you felt more of a connection to?
So I've seen a bit of Critical Role, and since I do I do play Warhammer and Dungeons and Dragons and stuff with my brothers, and they're just Critical Role's just in that sort of theme.
Sure.
But it was mostly just a lot of the connection to the cards. Like I do really like tech decks. So Violent Anima Shot and Weapon at the Ready are one of my favorite cards. because I did play a lot of chronostatus as well. But it's a shame chronostatus can't use a weapon at the ready.
So we'll quickly head over to the judging table. We'll have a discussion and we'll let you know who is going to be our overall winner. Best, absolutely amazing build. Great to hear the story and how you captured yourself in there. And we'll see you in a minute.
From you first before I give my thoughts on this, because I'm still kind of thinking between the two. Do you have a clear one you're leaning towards right now?
I do not. I made a great prompt, and they made 2 very good decks, and I'm very torn between both of them for very different reasons. I have shot myself in the foot, and that's okay.
The coincidence of them both having the same exact symbols.
I'm gonna talk through my ideas, and it's gonna kind of help me settle. I think I'm leaning towards Richard. I was funny. I thought I was gonna lean towards Kai when we were hearing the trial stuff, but I think the way Richard really talked about like how much Storm of Blades has meant as a card throughout his history did a lot for me. Both it being like related to his Twitch handle and like it feels like a locals deck, like that feels like in the very much the spirit of like, hey, this is going to be great at locals. Having a personal connection to both IPs, I felt was really good. But it does also result in it feeling like a cohesive package of a deck, whereas Kai's feels more like here are a bunch of individually interesting cards, but they're not really doing much together. They all have their own story element, but they're not really playing towards one concept.
Correct, yeah. I think that's kind of where I'm leaning a little bit on that regard.
Yeah.
And neither of these decks are bad. I would actually take both these decks and go have a fun time at a local event. But I would have fun for very different reasons. So, as Kai said, very backup focused deck, very big robots, widespread. I enjoy that. That seems fun.
The way
I was gonna say, I think the thing that actually is swaying me more is Kai did not convince me to play that deck.
Yeah.
Whereas Kai convinced me that every single one of those cards is really cool and does mean something to him. I love that. But at the end of the day, this is a deck baking competition.
I kind of agree.
And I think even though it was a little less cohesive of a deck because it's just all threes and just, this card has a 3 on it. I guess I'm gonna throw it in. I definitely feel like it's the more cohesively made deck. Also, just hits that local level. Like I think a 1-check casino is a great local level deck.
Yeah. So we gonna give it to Richard?
Just by a little bit of a margin. I think we're in agreement here.
Yeah. Yep. Makes a lot of sense. And unfortunately, Guile, I know you hate to do it, but you're the one that gets to give the bad news.
I know. It's I signed up for it. I knew it was gonna happen. They're both winners in my book.
Hello, Bakers! The judges have gone over the stories you told, how you captured your Universus experiences and what Universus means to you within a deck. And both judges loved the stories and how you captured yourselves in the cards. But I will head over to Guile, who will give the judging and the results. Take it away, Guile.
Yeah, so as you said, both of those decks were very fun to look at, very great. They both told stories of each of you and really how you were going to bring yourself into the game. And it really came down to us. Honestly, we both kind of had a feeling of who was going to win when we went in. We discussed it. And it was just by a little bit of a hair's margin on the prompt in and of itself and the challenge of this entire show in and of itself. So, Kai, your deck was very much... You were focused exactly on each individual card, explaining on who you were and how you wanted to be. And Richard had a more compelling story overall with how the deck wanted to be and what the IPs and the symbols meant to him. And at the end of the day, it really just came down to which of the decks was the better one to go to locals, represent yourself as the players, and as a deck building challenge, was the most cohesive deck. So, the winner of Season 1 of the Bake Off is going to be Richard.
Woo!
You've got this.
Thank you.
So, by no means did you build a bad deck, Kai, or did you not tell your story correctly. It was very unique to yourself. It's just that Guile felt Richard's deck was more appealing for locals play. You still did absolutely amazingly. And I do encourage you to come back again, either judging or playing when I do a season 2.
Just to echo something Brett said here, he did confirm that it was Guile who said it, so it's Guile's fault and not mine.
That is fair and reasonable. At the end of the day, it was my choice. It was my decision on that. But yeah, both these decks seem very fun to play with and to go to locals with and have a good time with. And they both showed the expression of yourselves. It really honestly just came down to, for me personally, it was a little bit more of having a more even mix of the two IPs and also the more cohesive deck, where Richard just seemed like a lot more fun for if I wanted to go build and be like, all right, this is Richard's deck, I really could see Richard in this deck. Whereas Kai's was a very Kai flavored, Kai inspired deck, but was a lot of just the TMNT spotlight window cards.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so Kai, have you got anything you'd like to say about your time as a contestant on Bake Off, or just anything about Universus as itself?
No.
But thanks for being here, Kai. Absolutely amazing that we were able to get this timing in, and best of luck at the TMNT release events next week. So, Richard, you have one. I will dig out the deck box and send it out to you. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I have already told my locals that I will put it up as a prize for a tournament we're going to have here at some point.
Respectable.
Yeah, you should advertise that. I'm sure people will travel for it. It's a great prize.
You got to put it on top of a cake, though.
Okay. You've had a hell of a run here from illegal decks to winning the whole thing.
Yeah, it's been good. Thank you very much, judges, and obviously fellow competitors. Yeah, it's been fun. I think deck building has always been one of the things I actually most enjoy in this game. Deck building has always been, to me, one of the more fun things in the game. Like, there's lots of interesting puzzles and way you can attack stuff and put ideas through in your deck, whether that's through character choice, through card choice, through symbol choice, and just being able to put your creativity and put your own flavor on things. There could be 20 different builds and they're all completely viable, and I think that's one of the joys in the game. And I think having exercises like this is fun, and I think sort of highlights one of the big parts that is, the big bits of fun you can have in this game. It's been a lot of fun. I'm more than happy to come back. I don't think I need to sort of defend my crown, but I'm more than happy to judge other people. Should you need that in the future, I'm always keen to judge other people. So
I think this has been more than successful enough in terms of how much people enjoyed doing it that I kind of have to do a season 2. As you said, this is a great exercise in the deck building aspects and highlighting characters and cards and the aspects of the game that kind of don't get highlighted as much. I do enjoy hearing people saying how much they love this series. Great job, Richard. Big shout out to Guile for being here. Do you have anything you need to say, shout out?
Head over to your locals, play more games. That's basically it.
Yeah, look on UGN for your locals and get playing the game. And Justin, would you love to do your quick shout out for your upcoming and current content?
Yeah, I've got 2 things to shout out. First of all, every week we do 4Checks Cast. It's mainly the podcast, but this Tuesday, if everything goes according to plan, we're going back and doing more history of Universus, where you'll get to see some of the earliest sets of the game and how they played out in a competitive landscape. Beyond that, we are going to be doing, or I'm going to be starting a personal channel really soon called Double Mulligan, so keep a lookout for that. I don't know exactly what content I'm going to do there. I'm going to do some scripted content, basically anything doesn't fit 4Checks Cast. And then I think that's everything besides just shout out to my team, Final Round Games, and my locals in DFW, and that's about it.
Thanks for being here. I'll let you guys get off. Big shout out to everyone that was stuck around in the chat for doing this. I'll try and do more of these live. It was a lot easier to do live than I actually imagined. Yeah, be sure to check out Forecast, Double Mulligan, and I'll see you all at game night. Bye.
thanks all.
Man.